The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast do not necessarily reflect those of the host or the podcast. Additionally, opinions of the host and guests are just that, opinions. Any political commentary or discussions of public figures are shared as personal opinions for conversational and entertainment purposes only. This content is not intended as professional, medical, legal, or financial advice. And with that, enjoy the podcast. On Pivot Stories with Leona Hatcher, we discuss career pivots of all kinds. I talk with women who, whether out of necessity, curiosity, love, courage, or a combination of all four, decide to pursue their passions, talents, and the next version of themselves. We talk about it all: the wins, the failures, the lessons, the uncertainty, and the moments that made them realize that they were ready for the pivot. Welcome to Pivot Stories with Leona Hatcher. This is a podcast where we explore the moments that disrupt our lives, challenge our identities, and ultimately invite us into something that is deeper, freer, and more aligned. Today, I am so honored to welcome Sue Nyathi. She is the author of The Polygamist, the best-selling novel that inspired the hit Netflix series, taking the world by storm right now, actually. The show has reached over 20 million views on Netflix. That's no small feat. And has spent 4 consecutive weeks, I think even more by now, if we're counting, at the top 10. She's also the recipient of the Humanities and Social Sciences Award for Fiction for An Angel's Demise, while Gold Diggers was longlisted for both the Dublin Literary Award and the Barry Wrong Fiction Prize, along with her collaboration on Positively Me with Nozibele Mayaba, where she co-authored the beautifully written autobiography of a young woman living with HIV. Sue explores identity, migration, family, womanhood, love, and resilience with remarkable empathy and honesty, which I appreciate as a reader. Sue, welcome. And for those who are meeting you for the first time and who only know you from your work, The Polygamist, how do you introduce yourself when you're not leading with author?
So I'd like to thank you, first of all, Leona. Thank you for having me on your podcast. And I normally like to introduce myself as a feisty feminist with a frightfully fertile imagination,
Yeah,
writing her destiny one word at a time, as dictated by God. That's really how I introduce myself in a nutshell.
I love that. That's amazing. So let's begin. I'm curious about what was the first thing you remember writing and how old were you?
Um, I remember writing stories around cutout pictures from magazines. I would have probably been around 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We had a neighbor, Mrs. Williams, Joanne Williams, and she used to buy a lot of magazines, like Fair Lady, Femina, South African magazines that were pretty inaccessible to the majority of us. Whenever she was done with them, she would always give me the old copies,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just cut out pictures and just write stories. I would around them. So I think that was my
Wow.
first memory of actually putting words on paper.
So you'll write based on the pictures, and so your imagination
Yes.
would capture a character for based on the pictures or a scene. How did that work?
I would just look at the picture and think maybe what could possibly be going on here, you know,
Wow.
and just create a story around it. Yeah.
Storyteller from the
Or
beginning. Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, you talk about purpose a lot. I've seen in previous interviews and even in your introduction, you mentioned this purpose, this writing being based everything that you do based on what is ordained by God.
Mhm.
When did you realize writing just isn't something that you enjoy, that it was actually your calling?
I think I realized a long time ago, so I couldn't stop doing it,
Yeah.
you know. So even though I'm not trained as a writer,
Hmm.
and I actually studied finance and investments,
Yeah.
I was kind of discouraged from the path of pursuing writing because my parents said it didn't pay much.
Yeah.
And they come from that generation where they wanted you to have a respectable profession, be a doctor, lawyer, accountant. And so that kind of channeled me into finance. But that wasn't really where my heart was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they were right. They had wisdom in the sense that
Yeah.
writing, I later discovered, doesn't pay the bills for most writers. Most writers cannot survive simply from writing books. So there was, as much as there was wisdom, I still had a love for it, an innate passion for it. And so I always found myself going back to it. So even after hours, after work, I would write.
Mm-hmm.
I always wrote. It was just something that I had to do. I just felt compelled to do it.
Yeah.
And even more recently, I was thinking, maybe it's time I call it a day. But no, I think, yeah, I think, yeah, it was like there's nothing like calling it a day. There are still so many stories in you. Because I
Absolutely.
felt like, yeah, I felt like, I felt like I maybe, I'm out of stories now. But
Yeah.
I think maybe it was just being burnt out. And I just needed time out because I think after taking a break, I've taken a break from fiction writing for almost 2 years
Mm-hmm.
now, but I was writing, nonfiction. But then I realized I just needed a break because over
Yeah.
the years, over these 2 years, the stories are building up. So I think I just needed a break. Yeah, we don't realize that, like anything, we can't pour from an empty cup. You become depleted,
Yeah.
so you need to fill up again and then start the process. So I
Absolutely.
think, yeah, something I gravitate. I always go back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many things resonate with me there. First off,
Mm.
I started also writing when I was very young, but mostly writing poetry. And so it
Like,
was
yeah,
yeah, it was a way for me
I
to
was also
express.
poetry.
Yeah, it was a way for me
Yeah.
very young to express how I feel, like when I had too many emotions inside and like I just
hmm
couldn't really put them in words. Writing really actually helped me channel how I was feeling.
hmm
And two, the not thinking that I can make a living on writing, it never occurred to me that this is something that I can do for a career. Because
hmm
not necessarily my parents, but everything, all the messages around me said, doctor, lawyer,
hmm
all engineer, those professions. And so I
hmm
thought I wanted to do something like that. And so I always, paid attention in school and had really good grades. And so I knew I was going to go to college and make and have a career. And writing just seemed like something I did on the side.
hmm
So it wasn't until recently that, I started to pivot towards my creativity.
I
Yeah.
was just jumping in to say I also started with poetry, actually. Wasn't I started with poems. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I don't know at which point, I don't know if it was a point, but at school I was actually known more for my poetry. I
Hmm.
won a lot of accolades for poetry writing,
Yeah.
but I kind of left it. I haven't written poems in years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you'll spark something and go back to it a little bit. Alrighty, so looking back now, what would you tell that young girl that was looking at pictures and writing stories and writing poems, the young girl who dreamt of writing during that time?
I would say well done. You always knew what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you never doubted yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you knew what you wanted. I think that young girl always knew that she
Yeah.
wanted to write. Because I remember when I was 13, I wrote my first novella. I call it a novella because it was small.
Mm-hmm.
And it was handwritten, so it's not like I was typing.
Yeah.
And it was young adult fiction. That's what it would be called now.
Yeah.
Um, and I was called Crazy Over You. And I covered it, and I had a picture in front. I had a blurb at the back, my name in front. So it was Crazy Over You by Sue Nyathi. So I already at that age I was manifesting what I wanted to be. So that's why I'm saying I'm proud of you because you knew then. You always knew.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
I used to write journals when I was little, and one day my parents discovered my journals, and so I started keeping them in my locker in school when I was like, 14, 15 years old. And I regret this, but at the end of the year, I'll throw them away because I didn't want them to be found,
Yeah.
and then yeah, so
I can relate. I used to
yeah,
journal.
hmm
I kept a diary.
yeah,
And then my mother also found it and read it.
Yeah.
And then I stopped. I was like, you
Exactly.
couldn't, yeah. So because I was like, if, but I was like, because I felt, it was violating my privacy. And so I was
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
well, what's the point of sharing, putting
Hmm.
those, if someone's going to come and, because it was just for me. It was just meant for me.
Absolutely. And I kind of wish I had those journals now because I want to like kind of look
Yes,
back and see like what my 13-year-old, 14-year-old brain was thinking. But
yes,
yeah.
true.
So we're gonna pivot a little bit. So prior to
Mm-hmm,
becoming an author full time, as you mentioned before, you were in finance, investment banking,
mm-hmm,
I believe, for about 15 years. This
mm-hmm,
also resonates with me because I was in corporate for 10 years before being laid
mm-hmm.
off and then, dipping into my creative side again. What was the pivot moment that changed everything for you? What was that defining moment when you were in finance and you said, you know what, I can do this?
There was a time, I think, um, around 2016, between 2017, I think, 2017 and 18, where
Hmm.
I started to feel a deep tension between the creative side and the
Okay.
financial side of me, right? Like the professional Sue, and let's just say professional Sue and creative Sue. There was this always ongoing tension, and something was saying to me, you need to leave this job and write.
Yeah.
But I was scared because, I just become a mom then, and I was parenting single-handedly. And, I had the security of a stable paycheck and, the predictability of a stable paycheck as well. And I was like, I can't leave this just to write. There was that fear, like, of the unknown.
Yeah.
And so, I was battling because I could do my job. And I
Hmm.
remember at some point, I even got rated as an analyst, and there's this financial mail ratings, and I got this recognition, and I didn't even believe, I was capable, like it was like because I was suffering from serious imposter syndrome as well because I was like, I'm in this job, but I'm not really in it, and there's always that thing, people are going to discover that, I'm a fraud at this actually, because I felt like I was really faking it. I wasn't, you know, but I was doing it, but yeah, there was a big call for me to write. And at that time, I just finished writing my second novel called The Gold Diggers. So whilst I was working full time. So I was doing these two things. But
Hmm.
now there was this tension. One is pulling me this way, one is pulling me this way.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling like I need to go, but I didn't have the courage. And until then, then my work actually started suffering at some point
Hmm.
because I was trying to juggle so many balls. And then my boss called me into his office and he was like, "This really isn't working for you, is it?"
Wow.
And I had to agree. I said it isn't because it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Well, do you want to go?" And yeah, I said yeah because and that's the day I left, and I got my severance package, and I left. And Leona, I think I was so relieved that day. I remember I left the office and went to get my hair done.
Hmm.
And I fell asleep, as they were washing my hair, as the hairdresser was washing my hair. Because I felt like this huge load had just lifted off my shoulders. And for the
Hmm.
first time, I just like, when you exhale, that, I just felt like, you know,
Hmm.
I just felt like it was the best decision. And I know my friends were saying, "Are you sure about this?
Yeah.
Are you really sure?" But in that moment, I felt relief. It was relief. Yeah.
And I
That's
think
that's really when I left.
And I think that's how you know is that relief that you felt.
Mm,
I think for me, I would have never left. I was the
hmm
kid who, when I in college, I would take a class and there was a drop ad period. Um,
hmm
because I registered for that class, I'm going to stay and I'm going to get a good
Same.
grade. There's no way I'm leaving. I'm going to fight this through. This statistics is
And
not going to beat me. I'm going to
hmm
take this algebra class and I'm going to win. And
hmm
I think I would have like had it not been for the layoff, I would have stayed and not made
hmm
time to write again and pick up
Yeah.
and yeah. So I think God knows what we need. So yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Because
Yeah.
like you're saying, if my boss had not really push me, I don't think I would have gone.
Yeah.
I would I would have just continued on that treadmill. But even though I knew deep down, like it's not working. Like
Yeah.
was the writing was on the wall, but you know, just
Yeah.
that fear of the unknown. But yeah, but I like you say, when it like I know this now, they say when a decision comes with peace, then you know it's the
Mm-hmm.
right decision. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can sense it. That's where that calm came from.
Mm,
Yeah. Alrighty. So, you mentioned that your friends were like, "Are you sure?"
hmm
And so the people around you, when did they begin taking your writing seriously?
I mean, like they always took it seriously,
Yeah.
but they just didn't think it was something I would need,
Mm-hmm.
leave my job for.
Yeah.
Because I remember a friend of mine, even who said, the one who said, "Are you sure?" When the whole series blew up, he was like, "I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
You did it. Like when you did it at the time, I was questioning it,
Mm-hmm.
your decision, but look at you now." And he said, like it would not have come to this if you hadn't been that brave.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so sometimes it takes a leap of faith, and people around you will not support your decisions. That I learned very quickly.
Yeah.
And as things got difficult, because they did get difficult later, people will be like, "But you left a job,
Mm-hmm.
people are not necessarily supportive. So you kind of like have to really slog it out on your own."
Yeah.
And I think that's really where the biggest test of, faith is in all of this. Like how much are you willing to sacrifice for it? I
Yeah.
think that's really what it comes to.
Yeah, when you take a big risk like that, I think what I've learned is that external validation is not going to sustain you because it's not going to be
No.
there. I think
Yeah.
folks, it's not like it's not like they don't support you. It is
Mm.
they're seeing for themselves like, oh, I would never do this, and I'm worried for
Yes.
her. And
hmm
so that is where that comes from, I think. It comes from their
Mm.
own I guess ideas around like what you should do based on their own life and not
Yes.
necessarily, yeah. So I think I've experienced that a lot. So,
But I also feel like for me, that was another lesson that I had to learn because
mhm,
I relied a lot on external validation.
mhm,
And then it taught me, to start not to rely on it and to actually rely on internal,
yeah,
validation. And so I think it was also a big learning curve for me because
yeah,
I think most of the time you out there trying, you know, to get people's approval,
yeah.
but yeah, and you won't always get it like you say. And but now you need to be able to make those decisions on your own.
On your own. Yeah.
You
I'm
know.
coming out of that season of realizing that
Mm,
I do rely on it too much. And then
mm.
learning now to like stand and be like, yeah, I'm convicted in how I feel. And it was brought me actually closer to God. And I think this season was needed for that. So I
Yeah,
hear
no,
you.
definitely because
Yeah.
I used to, I remember there was a time when I was on social media and I was Miss Popular. And I think God actually was like, I'm gonna, I'm gonna teach you to stop
Mm,
relying on, on that external validation. So
yeah.
you're right when you say it's God's lesson because, he removed me from social media at one point. There was a season because I used to always be on Twitter and when I came onto Twitter, I'd be like, "Good morning, tweetards." Everybody knew I used to greet, and
Yeah.
everybody followed me because of my outrageous tweets, and it was all good, and I used to enjoy it when I used to go viral and trend, it was, and that made me feel good.
Yeah.
And then I think there was a time when I was, I was convicted, and God was like, "You don't even greet me, Sue. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
greet the world before you even greet me." I
Mm-hmm.
mean, how about we start with me first?
Yeah.
And then as I started to, reorder, I started slowly I weaned myself off it until at some point I was no longer on social media. It wasn't the go-to.
Yeah.
And so I think it was preparing me that, it doesn't matter what people think out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that should never be the focal point of doing things for people. And I think even now, because of what's happened with the series going viral and everything, even with the criticism, it doesn't really affect me. It's
Mm,
like, okay, there will be people who say, more won't like it, and it's okay.
yeah.
And there'll be, and I'm not swayed either way. But
Yeah.
it's just made me a more grounded person. I'm not swayed by the gallery kind of thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you had to go through that in order to stand in this season
Yes.
now the way you are. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
His lessons are perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Definitely.
learning that.
Mm.
So more and more as I get older. So looking back now, do you think you needed every chapter? We touched on that a little bit, but I'm speaking specifically about finance here.
Mhm.
What did being in finance teach you and about being a writer today? What do you learn from that experience?
I think it's taught me that writing is also a business. I
Mm,
mean, people who are publishers are in it for, it's a business. They're not just in it for the creativity and art.
yeah,
They make money from it. And so I think having that grounding in numbers also taught me to look at it like a business.
yeah,
When my first novel, The Polygamist, got rejected by mainstream publishers,
mm-hmm,
and as much as it was heartbreaking, it taught me to understand because I had to self-publish. And when I was self-publishing, I then learned the steps in publishing. I learned how the publishing industry worked. I learned the hard way, but I learned. It was understanding how books are made. I needed to know that
yeah,
the whole process, what it entails. Um, and it really helped me. It equipped me. It empowered me in the sense that because, now, I mean, I own the rights to the Polygamist because, I self-published.
good,
I can, yeah,
yeah,
I can stand here and see, okay, what are the benefits of that? What does that mean to me as a creative? And so I now, in retrospect, everything was preparing me for this moment, for such a time like this. And so, I totally understand why I had to go through what I had to go. Because at times you always like, why is my journey different? Why isn't it, but there were things I needed to learn, and it was preparation.
yeah.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That really inspires me because I have an MBA and my first
Hmm.
degree was in political science. And so
Hmm.
I think in my corporate life, I've always understood how, from my political science background, how to give my constituents, meaning my manager, the hiring managers that I work with, the candidates that I'm recruiting, how to provide what they need, right? And so my political background lended itself to my corporate side. But
Absolutely.
I've been feeling like a fish out of water when it comes to writing, and I'm talking to folks that have MFAs, like, Masters of Fine Arts in writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
applied to a writing program and I didn't get in. I felt like it was a blessing in disguise. It would have probably squashed my creativity in a way because I write in a way that's not traditional. I'm working on a novel right now, and it's based in a world that I've never been in, right? It's sort of
Right. Hmm.
speculative fiction, and
Sure. Yes.
I get very, I don't know, discouraged when I listen to folks with traditional writing backgrounds. And
Hmm.
I think that, even when it comes to publishing, like, don't self-publish, try to get with a publisher. What you
Yes.
just said here in terms of, you self-publish and you own the rights. I have a
Hmm.
children's book that I self-published because I wanted to
Hmm.
own it creatively. Like I wanted it to
Hmm.
be, it was so important to me that I wanted to put it out the way I wanted to put it out. It was
Hmm.
like an ode to my childhood and my grandmother
Very important.
and
Oh,
and
that's
my
beautiful.
and my mentors. And so, um, you know, I'm hearing your story and I'm so inspired because the path that you led is so purposeful and purpose
Yes.
led that
Hmm.
in the end you see how everything unfolded, for your benefit. And I think
Mm.
that's so important to know that, just because it's not
Yes.
traditional doesn't mean it's not right. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, I did later go the traditional way
Yeah.
to get that validation. Once,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but but I had learned what I needed to learn, I think,
Yeah.
um, because I also needed then to sort of cement myself as a writer. And
Mhm.
most self-published writers don't get taken seriously, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's unlike in the music industry where you're an indie. It's kudos to you, but
Hmm.
in our field, there's judgment on self-published authors.
Yeah.
So I have experienced best of both worlds in
Yeah.
that sense. And I think, like I'm saying, I know better now.
Yeah. And but look at your self-published work is the one that's your
Yes.
the people are responding to. So
Something to.
it's all about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Mm.
Not saying that your others aren't, but it is a testament to,
Yes.
the direction that God led you in. All right. So your books explore marriage, migration, family identity, and womanhood. Your characters are wonderfully complex. They don't really fit into the roles of protagonist and antagonist, which I love. I don't like clear-cut hero and villain. Like we're
Mhm.
too complex for that, right?
Yeah.
And you do it with so much empathy, and I appreciate that as well as a reader. Why is complexity in your storytelling so important?
Because I think we believe as human beings we are complex.
Yeah.
You know, we're not black or white. You know,
Mm. Yeah.
we're 50 shades of gray, I guess.
Yeah.
And I like to bring that complexity into the writing and into the characters. And I think that's what makes those characters very relatable. And
Yeah.
that's why they resonate with people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because people are not one way. You can be many things. I mean, that's why you find one person is treats you a different way and they appear they are something else to someone else
Mm-hmm.
because of those complexities. So those
Yeah.
are the kind of things I like to unpack in my writing.
Yeah. It's so funny. Like we tell stories about our grandmothers, and
Mhm.
we talk about like at least my husband and I, like how warm our grandmothers were to us, like how they were so like, they treated us like with so much compassion and empathy and warmth. And then you hear our parents talk about our
Yeah,
grandparents,
yeah,
the complete opposite. Like what? No.
yeah. So
Yeah.
true. Like my mother and my grandmother, like
Yeah.
I always wonder, is this the same woman?
Hmm.
Even my aunt, the
Yeah.
way they talk about my grandmother. And I also wonder, as maybe with time, people also get softer with age.
Hmm.
And so that when we experience them in their old age, we get a different version of them.
Yeah.
So that's also very interesting to me as well.
Yeah, and I love exploring those themes in writing too. And you do
Mm,
that so well
mm,
with a lot of your
mm.
characters. Like you feel
Thank you.
empathy for them in one second, and then you're frustrated with them in another, and you're screaming at the television. And so, yeah, I love that.
Mm.
So do your characters ever surprise you? Speaking of that, do they ever wait, you're writing, you're like, wait a minute, what did you just do? Yeah,
They do. They
yeah,
do. I mean, each character is different, and I think it's allowing them to live that
yeah.
makes them different. I've had to learn that with time. I
Hmm.
mean, when I first started writing, I used to be, very rigorous in the planning,
Yeah,
to the last detail,
yeah.
but now I do less. Yes, I have a plan, but I'm not as faithful to it as I used to be. Like
Mhm.
when I started writing, I never used to allow the story to also start to tell itself. I was a control freak in the writing. But
Yeah.
now I also allow the characters to own the story. And they do. And I find that when you let them do that, the story flows more easily.
Hmm.
Because you not it's not you, it's the character that is motivating some of the storyline, and then it just flows better. I mean, I remember I always use this example of a character in my last novel.
Hmm.
Um, so I think in draft one, she dies in chapter two.
Hmm.
But when I was rewriting it again, I think it was draft three or four, she was like, "Why am I dying? Like, I don't need to die. You need to
Yeah,
keep me alive."
yeah,
And I'm like, but I need you dead because that's how the story goes, and
yeah.
I've always that's how it. And she's like, "No, keep me alive. Like
Hmm.
I'm more useful to you alive than dead."
Yeah.
And we wrestled for a while. This isn't all in my head, by the way.
Hmm.
And then finally I said, okay, fine, I'm going to keep you alive.
Hmm.
And then in keeping her alive, I realized I could take her on a journey.
Yeah,
Um, there was a storyline that I wanted to explore, and I could use her.
yeah,
So it was like, oh, so you were right. I need to keep you
yeah,
alive. So it was kind of that. Sometimes it's those decisions. If you allow them, they
yeah,
lead you in unexpected places, which
yeah,
actually enrich the story. It never takes away. So it's also trusting that voice at times to say, no, let the character live. Like,
yeah,
why are you killing her? Yeah,
yeah.
she's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny like I'm having the opposite with the story that I'm writing. Like at the
Mm,
beginning of the story, the first thing I thought of when I was writing the story was like a character in this situation and she dies. And
mm,
so from that came the rest of the story. And
mm,
I wanted to forget about that because I wanted her to
mm,
live. And so
mm.
I'm writing and I'm thinking, well, maybe she can,
Yeah,
her outcome could be different. And I keep hearing, no,
yeah,
actually, she has to go. Like this is, and I'm back and forth. I'm like, no, but she learned her lesson. Like, no, she learned it too late.
yeah.
And it is a back and forth in your
For
head with the character. So
yeah.
yeah, I completely get it. So have you ever fell in love with a character you did not expect to, and you got protective of that character?
I don't know if I
Did
didn't
you fall in
expect
love
to.
With Jonas? I'm kidding.
No, it wasn't Jonasi.
Um,
The character was actually Yandisa in A Family Affair.
mm,
She's a chaotic character,
yeah,
but I love her in her chaos. And such I loved her so much that, you know, she like the storyline just, speaks, you expect her to die. And I remember I then struggled, like,
yeah.
because I didn't want her to die,
Hmm.
but she had to die. So but then I became very conflicted. I think it was probably the hardest ending to write
Wow.
because of my love for her. Because,
Yeah.
she was messy, but I loved her and her messiness. She was,
Hmm.
yeah. So it happens. You do fall in love with characters.
Yeah, messiness can be beautiful. I was just kidding about Jonasi. I started to feel some empathy for him in his youth, but
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
I'm like, ugh, there now all the empathy is gone now. Like, I liked you as a kid a little bit, but yeah. Um, so your novels often challenge cultural expectations, whether around marriage, in The Polygamist, for example, migration and success in The Gold Diggers, or family and faith in The Family Affair, without rejecting the value of the African culture itself, which I think is beautiful. How do you navigate that balance as a writer? Being honest, but also revering the culture.
So I always, say, you know, culture and tradition gives us roots
Mm,
and a foundation.
yeah,
So they're important in that aspect. But I also feel like, culture is dynamic.
yeah.
Uh, and I think we also need to always like do an inventory
Mm,
of the culture and the tradition. I mean, what still serves us, we can keep. I think what doesn't, we must go.
yeah.
Like everything, there's certain cultures that are harmful and we shouldn't hold on to those. But the good ones we should keep.
Yeah.
So I think it's like we must always like sit down and, almost like take things out of the closet that we don't want anymore and throw them away. And the
Mm,
ones that we are still relevant, we keep. And yeah, I think that's very important to have the balance and to also understand culturally why we do certain things. Because a lot of the times people will tell you because that's how it's always been done. But why was it always done that way? And I feel like it warrants an explanation because we're inheriting things that, you know, we don't even know why we're doing them. So it's also important to understand, you know, so
yeah.
that we don't keep perpetuating harmful practices. So yeah. So that's yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of like you read the Old Testament and what was necessary at the time. It's not
Mm.
necessary anymore. The same thing
Anymore.
with family patterns. And
Exactly.
some things you just got, why was this the case? Is it because,
Mm.
everyone is triggered by this one event? And then how
Mm.
do we move past it? Yeah. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's like we say we have the new covenant,
Yeah.
we're not tied to the old anymore. And it's the same. I think we should also do that with our culture and the tradition. Some of it doesn't serve us at all anymore.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So one of the things I admire most about your journey is that it reminds us that success is often years in the making. So
Mm.
you've often spoken about the 12-year journey behind the Polygamist, including the rejection before ultimately self-publishing. What kept you going during that time?
It's the love, Leona.
Yeah.
Like I was saying to you, I think if you're called to do something, you will go back to it. I mean, people always say, "Oh, you wrote The Polygamist, 16 years ago.
Hmm.
What's next?" And I'm like, I've got like three books after that.
Yeah.
And that's probably a testament of the love. I wasn't writing for Netflix. I was just writing
Yeah.
for the love of it. Yeah. And and that's what really keeps me going. And I always say I'm a writer by passion and an analyst by profession. It's the love. And I always say don't write for money. You
Mm.
have to love it first,
Yeah.
and hopefully the money will follow the love. Because if you're not doing it for love, what's going to keep you going when the money doesn't come, when
Yeah.
the fame doesn't come, when the applause doesn't come? There has
Yeah.
to be something deeper and greater than just that, you know,
Yeah.
and that's the love for it. Like you're saying, you will not leave a course. Because another thing as a writer, you need to be able to start and finish. Many people write, but they'll tell you, I'm not done. And I've been writing the book for years.
Hmm.
The finishing is also important.
Yeah, I think we live
Mm.
in a culture, at least for me, in a society that's motivated by the end result being success and money. And success is only measured
Yes,
by how much money you're perceived to have. So you have a degree, and so the perception is that you're going to earn this much. You have
yes.
this job, so the perception is that you're earning this much, or you are earning this much in actuality, and you're going for the
Mm-hmm.
promotion and all of that because of the money that comes at the end. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just be honest, because it's a job. I think so
Mm-hmm.
often we forget about the love, the things
Yes,
that we actually love to do, and we put it aside for the weekend when we have 2 hours or 3 hours, and we do the things that we love to do. But the majority of our time is spent, earning in an area that we don't love. And so
yes.
I think we often forget about that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I do like that point a lot. And it just it
Mm-hmm.
just it just triggered something in me. So all right.
Some
So
people,
yeah, go
some
ahead.
people would argue that we are privileged to be able to pursue your passion,
Yeah,
but I also don't think it's true in the sense that it takes a lot of sacrifice.
yeah.
You know, yeah. I mean, if you look at a lot of creatives,
Mm-hmm.
they are not successful in a worldly way,
Mm-hmm.
but I think emotional satisfaction they have. And that's what I'm saying. It's a different kind of success,
Yeah.
being able to do what you love.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so we've all seen the success of the Polygamists and the worldwide sensation has become a Netflix. When you look back at your journey, in we talked about the 12-year journey, what emotions come to mind? You look at where you are now.
So for me, it honestly feels like a full circle moment.
Yeah.
Um, because I always used to pray about a breakthrough, but I didn't think it would look like this, right? Um, and yeah, I think it has really far exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
And it's also I've come to a deeper understanding, that writing a book, the royalties is only a start,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not the end. It's a door, it's a book is a door,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a door to other streams of income. So that's and for me, it feels like a big door has opened for me with this Netflix series. And so it's understanding that, like, we have keys,
Yeah.
uh, and we have doors, and this certainly has opened a big door for me. And it's amazing because if I look where I've come from, and the things I went through, it's been worth it. That's all I can say. It was really worth it. Because I
Yeah.
think sometimes when you're filled with doubts, you wonder, really, am I on the right track?
Yeah.
But this is an affirmation that, yeah, you know, you are on the right track.
Yeah.
This is where you're supposed to be. So that is satisfying in itself.
Yeah.
That it wasn't in vain. It
Yeah.
wasn't in vain at all. Yeah. And yeah, for me, this is like, it's an answered prayer. Because I used to pray, there's that Jabez's prayer. I was like, God, please expand my territory. But even when I was praying that, I was thinking, look, rest of Africa, maybe. Let's break
Hmm.
into I'm just known in Southern Africa. I wasn't thinking global. So
Yeah.
so you see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
and yeah, and it's gone global. So
Mhm.
it really far exceeded my expectations. So, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm happy that it's an affirmation of just being on the right path.
Yeah. His plans are so much greater than our own.
Yes, amen.
Yeah. All right. So I'm
Yeah.
going to switch gears a little bit. So there was a kind of a shift in Positively Me, the
Mhm,
autobiography that you co-authored
mhm,
with Nozibele Mayaba. You
mhm,
told someone else's truth, someone else's story,
mhm,
in a biographical sense, which is
mhm.
unique. How was that different for you?
I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed the anonymity of writing someone else's story.
Mm,
Um, I did. And I think probably at that time, I also was feeling a bit like I didn't want to be in the foreground. I really wanted to be in the background.
okay.
And it was nice. It was hearing someone else's story. And just, there was so much, the story was very inspiring for me.
Yeah.
Um, in seeing how much adversity she went through.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I needed at that time, that's what I needed to hear as
Yeah.
well. Um, and so yeah, it just kind of, encouraged me,
Yeah.
you know, that, and sometimes that's all you need, just to hear someone, a different perspective. And then you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, anything's possible.
Anything's
Because
possible.
I was like, God, I've seen what you've done for her.
Mm-hmm.
You can do anything, really. Yeah.
Yeah. It was unique was that at the beginning of her story, like, how she had that good girl moniker,
Yes. Right.
but
Yes.
then, ultimately things are going to come up in life and you wonder, why you're being tested or why me. But I think
Mm.
God always has a
So
plan.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes it's also good to take sort of pause away from your own life
Yeah.
and yeah, and just read about other people's lives. So I just found it so inspiring.
Yeah.
And yeah, and when I see how well she's done in life,
Yeah.
it's just a testimony of, the goodness of God.
It's beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah. Writing is often romanticized, but it
Mm.
also requires a lot of discipline. I know. It's
It
like,
does, yeah.
yeah.
It does.
What does your creative process look like? I'm curious.
So typically, because I write full time now,
Yeah.
I try and start every day at 8,
Hmm.
probably start 9.
Hmm.
I'd be lying if I don't always get the 8 a.m. right, but
Yeah.
9, I try to write until about like 3 p.m. in the afternoon every day. But since June 12th, I haven't written. I think in 2 months I haven't written anything. So
Hmm.
I'm feeling a bit, out of kilter
Okay.
because yeah, I'm not in my normal sort of program and I'm feeling guilty
Hmm.
because I haven't put in the words. Yeah, but I think when you write full time, you have to try. You write every day, like you say. You
Hmm.
don't wait to get inspired anymore. It's not like you have an aha moment. You write whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and like you say, you just have to be disciplined and make sure words on paper
Yeah.
every day, every day. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about making time even when you feel like you have competing priorities
Yes.
to do it. And I'm struggling with that right now.
So yeah, you kind of feel like it's almost like you're on a diet and you're cheating, like
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
yeah. So it kind of feels like now I need to get back into I'm feeling that guilt, I think that
Yeah.
writer's guilt, like I need to get back. So I'm quite busy with, re-promoting the book because of the resurgence of sales and stuff,
Yeah.
which I need to do because it's also part of being a writer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's funny when you say like it feels like you're cheating and you feel guilty. It's like writing is your lover, like it's your it's your
yeah,
love.
like
And then when you're not, yeah, tending to it, you feel guilty like you would with anything
yeah.
that you love, which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, like we
Yeah.
haven't we haven't spent some time, quality
Yeah.
time together at
Yeah.
the desk, and yeah, to get back in. And I think also it's difficult when you've taken a long break
Hmm.
to get back into it again because it's
Yeah.
almost like you need to re-immerse yourself into that world again,
Yeah.
and get back into the rhythm, which takes a while.
Yeah. For me, it's just dealing with self-doubt and imposter syndrome when it comes to writing
Is it?
in
Okay,
general.
okay.
Yeah, like I'm trying to overcome that now. So get in there. How do you get back into the rhythm when you've been away from writing for so long.
So
Yeah.
normally what I have to do now is I would have to start from the beginning. I normally have to
Mm,
reread the manuscript,
okay.
which and yeah, now it's quite long because I think I was probably left with like 6 chapters till the end.
Yeah.
Um, but now I need to really reread everything that I'd written because I need to really immerse myself, get reacquainted with the characters, getting back into that gear, the mindset and the time. Because also the book that I'm writing is like it's not current, so I need to get back into that time zone as
Mhm.
well. And it's just you have to, yeah, so that there's a whole like almost prepping yourself before you can even start writing. But it's important. So yeah, so I have to, yeah, just get back into that zone again, you
Okay.
know.
That's a good tip for me. I was asking for my own
No, no, yeah,
purposes.
yeah.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
go back because it helps you kind of relive the story, and you
Yeah.
just yeah, almost like you're picking because you want to pick up where you left off, but you can't just pick up from. You need to get back into that brain
Yeah.
and be in the world again,
Yeah.
and also you think get excited about the story. And sometimes I think also when you take a break,
Hmm.
it's nice because you come back with fresh eyes
Yeah.
and you might have a different perspective to bring to it as well.
That's true.
Yeah,
Do you ever start like editing and then get in
yeah,
a
I do.
hole when you reread? And for
I
me, it's
do.
like I'm afraid I'm going to get caught up in that and then get
I
frustrated
do.
again. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't help it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try not to, but it's like, putting your fingers in the cookie jar.
Hmm.
I like because I can't kind of walk past it. So I do, but yeah, I was trying not to get. Sometimes I just print the whole manuscript that way because then if I make notes, I'm not actually making. I just sit and read it. So I'm far from the computer. And then I just think, okay, this underline. Probably by the time I get to the end, I'll have forgotten, but that
Yeah.
also doesn't take me off the momentum of reading. Yeah.
That's a great idea. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna print it out. What I typically do is
Mm.
I write longhand and I transfer it to my
Mm.
my laptop.
Is it? So, okay.
Yeah, because like I feel like I'm more creative when I'm actually
Long.
writing with a pen or
Just print it and just sit under a tree because then that
yeah.
way, because now you're thinking to move to the laptop, whatever.
Yeah.
Then you'll think, okay, I'll do it later, but it'll just keep you reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I think that's actually just to print and read and then back to it again.
I'll try that. Thank you. For someone
Mhm.
listening who believes they have a story inside of them, but is dealing with imposter syndrome, what would you say to them?
I think you have to write past it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and just try and quiet. There's always that voice that says you can't do it. You have to get bigger than that voice, and shut that voice down.
Yeah.
Because there's that voice that will always make you question. That's why you find that, especially a lot of writers like us who don't have the qualifications, we always feel like we don't belong in the room
Mm-hmm.
because, we don't have the MFA to back it up. We kind of feel like we're not qualified,
Yeah.
but it's realizing, you don't have to be qualified.
Yeah.
Having talent is qualification enough, you
Well,
know,
yeah.
and it's, and people will always try and make you doubt yourself. But
Yeah.
that's where you have your self-belief has to be stronger to say, no, I'm
Yeah.
qualified to do this and believing in yourself. Because I think there was a time I was thinking, maybe I should, do a PhD in creative writing
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like if I had the doctor next to my name, it would be, just give me that bit of, but yeah, but that's the thing. We try to qualify, but you have to believe, no, your work is good enough, without
Yeah.
the doctor in front of it. It's still
Yeah.
good enough.
Absolutely.
But don't share too soon. That's my advice to you. Just keep writing. Yeah,
Yeah.
keep writing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. What book challenged you the most to write?
Mm, I think it would have to be An Angel's Demise.
Mm.
Yeah.
And why is that?
It was my first time writing historical fiction and was
Mm.
kind of trying to balance the history aspect of it and the fiction side of it. And because there's a tendency to want to put all the history in there,
Yeah.
but you don't want to drown the story. So I think for me that was to find that balance was a bit that was challenging. Yeah.
Yeah.
Research is nice. We
Yeah.
tend to get carried away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do anyway when I'm doing
Me too.
research because then I want to find out everything. It's like and then I'm like I find I've spent like 2 weeks
Yes.
this is actually nothing to do with the story.
You just get
Yeah.
fascinated with the history. Yeah. Same
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and you
Yeah.
just like kind of have to like listen, get back to the story. This is
Mm-hmm.
what has this got to do with the story? Maybe it's like 2 lines, but you just got so into the history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always tell myself, reel it in, Leona, reel it in. Like, stop. All right. One character
Yeah.
you'd love to have dinner with from any of your books.
No, Jonas. I'd ask him if you could wake up from the dead, would you do it differently?
Oh.
Mm.
Yeah, I want to know too, sir. Like they say when you pass, you have a life review. And so I'm curious, like, after his life review, like what would he do differently? Okay.
Yeah,
So, one character you'd never want to meet.
probably Wesley. Yeah, he's a character in my book.
Hmm.
Yeah, if I could avoid men like that in real life, I would. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I would. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And why is that?
Yeah. Oh, he's just he's nasty.
Yeah.
He's in a family affair. Maybe he's not too bad. Maybe I'm being too harsh. But I'm just thinking of all of the yeah,
Of all of them, that would probably be the least on your list. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So hardcover, paperback, or audiobook?
Paperback.
Mm,
Yeah.
same, same. I can bend it
Mhm.
and I can stick it in my
Yes,
purse
yes,
and all that.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The hard covers are just too tenuous, and you always feel
Hmm.
like you can't do any. They just, yeah,
Hmm.
no,
You got to
it's too precious.
take out the
Yeah,
cover and like, yeah, yeah,
yeah, the jacket, and you just, yeah, no,
yeah.
they're high maintenance. They're nice to
Same.
look at on the shelf, but not to move around with.
Agreed, agreed. One word you hope your legacy lives behind.
Hmm. One word, just one word.
Hmm.
Hmm. Empowerment. Yeah.
I like that.
Mm.
Nice. I think your stories are all about that too.
Mm.
So if you
Mm.
weren't a writer, what would you be?
I'd probably be in finance.
Yeah, you still be in
Yeah.
finance. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
still
uh,
be.
quiet quitting in finance.
Yeah, I'd still be doing financial models and hating it
You
probably.
hating
I'd
it,
still
yeah. And your boss, are you sure you want to be here like every 3 months?
yeah, I'd still be there.
Yeah. So the hardest part of writing, starting, editing, or letting your baby into the world.
I think for me it's the writing.
Mm,
Starting, I don't have a problem starting, but it's when you're in the trenches,
yeah.
when you're like in the book. I
Yeah.
think that's when it gets hard.
Yeah. What is the one thing readers would be surprised to learn about you?
I actually I write in total silence.
Hmm.
I like to isolate myself as a writer. I like to write alone. I like to sit with my thoughts.
Yeah. So if your life were a book, what chapter are you living now?
Hmm, that's a difficult one. Uh, what chapter?
Mm,
Hmm. I'd call it open doors. Yeah.
yeah, I
Hmm.
like that. That's beautiful.
Mm. And I think I've also opened doors in the industry generally as well. I
Yeah.
think for other writers in Southern Africa as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a lot of open doors, I think. Yeah. I would call it the open doors.
And writers who are self-published and Black
Yes.
female writers and
Yes, yes. I
yeah,
think yeah, just I
yeah,
think it's just like yeah,
general.
and filmmakers who can actually
Yeah,
say, look, our films, black films can make money. So I think
absolutely.
it's a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
yeah, open doors, I think. Yeah.
Right. Where can we connect with you?
So I am on social media. I'm
Hmm.
on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Sue Nyathi, and then on TikTok it's at Sue Nya. Yeah,
Hmm.
so I'm on social media and I do engage.
Yeah.
And on
He does.
email, you
Yeah.
can email me
Yeah.
at suenyati.co.za.
I'm gonna put all of your information in the description so folks can
Okay,
find
cool.
you. And make sure that you like, share, comment if something resonated with you. I know a lot resonated with me in this. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time. I'm glad we're finally
That's a
able to
pleasure.
connect. It
Yes,
was truly an
it was.
honor. Thank you, thank
Oh
you.
no, it
Um,
was wonderful.
and until next time, listeners and viewers, are you ready for the pivot?
Cheers.
Cheers.